Hello, welcome to my director's commentary. I'm gonna just go through my movie and I'm just gonna pause and add comments as we go along. Let's go.
Have you ever wished that the world could just go away? Or I used to wish that every day of my life, wondering when the mistreatment would end. After feeling like a background character my whole life, I found a way to get rid of them. And they're chattering, and they're loud noises, and they're ignoring me, and I am finally free.
Okay, so that was a whole lot. That's what I want to call part one of my opening scene because when we get to part two of it, you'll see that the mood changes drastically. There's reason to that. We'll get into that. Okay, so first thing off the bat, I used some conventions in my very beginning of the film. That whole entire villain monologue inspired by the Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers Infinity War, the movies that I researched, because both of those films began from the villain's POV, or by allowing the viewers to get a little glimpse of the villain's uh, perspective, his purpose, at the very beginning of the movie, and I chose to go in that direction for my opening scene. So it's like an eerie feeling right from the get go, and the audience has a little bit of a clue as to why the humans disappeared. Um, and then another thing that we can immediately get from this opening scene is the social issue. So if you're listening to the monologue, you're hearing words like loneliness, ignored, mistreated, or something along the lines of that. And this movie shows the effects of being ignored and loneliness and how it could drive people to do bad things. I mean, our main character here, or not main, he's a main character, yeah. Our villain here, I should say, obviously not a human, but has very human emotions. So we'll be treating it as such. But I wanted to spread the message of making sure to include people and take notice of them and make them feel appreciated. But in the entire film's ending, not the ending of the opening scene, the entire film, um, it shows the villain, who is later revealed to be Wrigley, not being redeemed for his actions and ultimately being killed to atone for his crime, because what he did, which is stealing all of humanity, which is kind of first shown through all of these empty spaces, no humans around, just everything left as though somebody was there, but now they're not. And he said he found a way to get rid of them. That's what he did. He basically stole humanity, put them in his collar. And he gets killed, but the viewers know the reason why. They know that he was kind of neglected and ignored, and he was lonely, and he was wronged by the people that cared for him. And it really shows that another social issue is that sometimes people do bad things, and sometimes people will excuse it because they had a reason, but this just shows that sometimes it's just irredeemable. Even if we know the reason, it's just not an excuse to really say that what they did was correct, or like, oh, poor them, you know? I don't want to get too much into that because it's a little bit off topic, but it makes the audience think a little bit, like who's really in the right. So yeah, that's something that you wouldn't typically find in a movie that stars dogs. but it's something interesting. Um, and I also wanted to comment on how I brilliantly used, particularly in this shot, my favorite, um, shallow depth of field. I was able to focus my camera on the toothbrush and the toothpaste while having the background blur, the deodorant, and the lotion, the sink. All of that's kind of blurred in the background. Shallow depth of field. I wanted to just point out how much I have improved in this area because I am not. I never knew how to do that on my phone. I never included it in my music video because I didn't know how to do shallow depth of field on the device. So, yeah, I just feel like being able to just do shallow depth of field as a whole is just a big step forward because it really brings up the production quality of my little movie. Um, I think that is everything I needed to comment on before getting into it. Let's keep going. Let's keep watching the movie. I used to think maybe you love me. Now baby, I'm sure. And I just can't wait. All right. Let's look at this. I challenge the conventions a lot here. I challenge the conventions by making the majority of the cast dogs. And in most movies, and all the movies that I researched, which includes Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, they all had the majority humanoid cast of characters. And even if there was an alien in the movie or something like that, they were played by a human or CGI, but a human. So I tried stepping out of this norm by not going the usual route. And hopefully this movie will be refreshing to audiences while the dogs are still having the same depth and emotion of the human character. And they're also really cute. So that's another little bonus point of using dogs. And as you can tell, we're on a very different vibe from the first half. We're already listening to Walking on Sunshine and stuff like that. So I wanted to just make this a point before we go any further. This movie is a product for teenagers and young adults. And though this half of the movie can be seen like just a little bit like childish, it's more like upbeat and bright and what you would kind of see in a kid's movie. The maturity in the movie grows as the stakes grow higher as the plot progresses later on, but we get that in the first part of the movie. So that's why I added that there too, because when we're starting with that scary voice, the creepy music, and the monologue talking about the loneliness and the being ignored, I just feel like that's something that could interest teens and young adults. And children would probably have trouble understanding the topics that are explored later on in the movie with the betrayal and death. So definitely teen and young adult area. Yes. And we can even market, there's a big way that we can market to those audiences, and that's social media. A bunch of teens and young adults use social media, and we can create a bunch of accounts on a bunch of different platforms and just try and build hype for the movie, and that'll increase the chance that the movie trends and more people see it, and more people will be like, wow, that movie looks cool. And it's all because of social media. Let's keep going. god, our bubbles are empty. Okay, so I just want to stop here, and I just want to make just a little comment, a little bit off topic. But if I were to ever distribute this movie, I would want it to be in a nationwide theater release because all the films that I researched did the same. I mean, the movies did like a premiere release before the nationwide release day, but that was like more private. So the nationwide release, I'd do it. And I would release the movie in the summer because, as we know, my audience are teens and adults. And if you're in late June and any day in the month of July, most likely if you're a kid or a young adult, you're off for summer break. I mean, you might have work, but you don't have school for the majority. And this choice would be inspired by the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, which also has the same target audience as me. Um, that because it released in July 7th, so it kind of had the same idea. So if I were to pick my release date specifically, June 30th, 2023, because another big factor is making sure that there's no big blockbuster movies releasing at the same time. And as far as I know, no blockbuster movies are releasing the week of June 30th. So that's the week that I go for to increase the chance of people coming to see it. And even further with the teen and young adult target audience, uh, the social media strategy, we're going to jump back to that. I feel like we could use campaigns on different websites, like photo based websites like Instagram and Snapchat that have filters. We can create filters that are like that are based on the movie, inspired by the movie. And that decision is inspired by the Spider-Man Homecoming campaign. They did photo filters on Snapchat, which I personally used, and I went to go see the movie, so it works. And then video challenges on apps that rely on video feeds like TikTok, Instagram with Instagram Reels, and YouTube with YouTube Shorts. And you can make video challenges that are based on the movie so people can participate and they can feel like they're a part of the experience, and it also spreads the word. And you can also partner with social media influencers to boost the film on the platform. And they can kind of weave the movie into their content, and all of those followers that love that influencer will follow what they say. Bandwagon effect. So social media is a very good place to go if you want to really get these audiences. And I just want to skip to the end of the movie real quick for oh, hang on. Let me these shots where it was just this arm, all this. So this dog actually isn't trained all that well. He can sit, he can do a high five, he can roll over. He can't sit still. So it was very difficult to get him to do all these shots. The black and white dog, Wrigley, he's good. He'll sit still. The other one, not so much. So I was kind of a little bit of difficulty while filming. I just thought that you might want to know that. Let's look at these credits that I used the conventions for. I was inspired by all three of the films that I researched: Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. I kind of blended together the end credit ideas that they had by well, in Infinity War they had an all black background because the movie was ended very sadly, and my movie ends with a death and a betrayal, but the humans also come back, so it's a bittersweet kind of ending. And so I wanted to keep that dark feel by using a dark blue, but it's also neutral enough to like make it so like the viewers like, oh well, it wasn't devastating, it was just a little bit bitter. So I thought it'd be appropriate to like not use such like a bright color, and I wanted to make the font not too sharp but like also not too bouncy, just like a very neutral feel. And another thing that I really wanted to talk about was how much easier it was to edit this time around. Because when I used CapCut for the first time on my music video, it was more difficult to navigate. And I wasn't editing the same exact things. I was editing stickers into my music video, and I was editing sounds into my movie. But I just feel like it was way easier now because I just knew where everything was at this point, and it just made the whole process run way easier. And then another thing that I liked was that my scene to scenes weren't as choppy as like they used to be in my music video. They didn't blend at all. So they just kind of cut. With this, I really utilized a preset black fade transition to really you know, get from one scene to the next. So that's something that I really improved on, which is my transitions. And as a whole, I wouldn't have been able to do this without my iPhone XS Max. With my phone, I was able to film the entirety of the opening scene, download the sounds, the music, edit, and add voiceover. And I use the editing software, the one we're on right now, CapCut, to edit my movie. And it's also where I added my voiceover. Without the technology I had, I most likely would not have been able to include a voiceover, which would have been detrimental to the movie since dogs obviously can't talk on their own. Even if I were to edit on my computer, I probably wouldn't have been able to achieve the voiceover portion of my video because I only have a microphone that's attached to my earbuds that can only be plugged into my phone. So the quality of the voiceover would have been very bad. And I also was able to get some shots on my phone that I might have not been able to get on a larger camera. That's because some of my shots took place in places that required a tighter squeeze to get a good angle. Specifically here, I had to really get around the bed to get that shot, and I just couldn't imagine doing it with a big, heavy, bulky camera. So that's everything. Thank you so much, and I hope you found this video enlightening.